On the back of Algebra Worksheet 25.2, I'm looking at both 18 and 20 in the review. We're asked to solve each of these equations. Number 18, the very first thing, we want to isolate these parentheses squared. So the very first thing we're going to do is going to get rid of that -4, or get rid of +4 by subtracting. So there's my -4. Subtract these, I get -50. Now, a common mistake here is that people want to take this -2 and multiply through, but remember, it's kind of order of operations. You can't do that because of the square. So I'm going to divide by -2. This cancels. It leaves me with x minus 5 squared equals positive 25. Once I get here, I want to get rid of the square. Remember, square root cancels the square. That leaves me with x minus 5 equals, the square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. It could be -5, because -5 times -5 gives me positive 25. So really I'm doing two problems. I'm taking x minus 5, I'm putting it equal to positive 5. I add 5 to both sides, that gives me a positive 10. It's plus 5 plus 5. And then the second thing I'm doing is taking x minus 5, putting it equal to -5. Plus 5 again. This time it gives me 0. So my two answers for this are going to be positive 10 and 0. Now I'm going to do number 20 also. And one thing, there's a couple options you could have here. You want to try to factor it, and this one's not going to factor. So when it doesn't factor, you have a couple options. You can do quadratic formula, which works just fine. Or, if possible, sometimes you can do completing the square. Now I'm going to show the completing the square version because that might be easier than quadratic formula. It depends on what you're more comfortable with. To do completing the square, I'm going to move this positive 1 over. So I'm going to keep 4x squared plus 8x equals -1. I'm going to keep the x's on one side and moving that plus 1 over. Now to complete the square, we need a 1 in front of the x squared. So since that 4 is there, I'm going to factor that out. X squared plus 2x plus blank. The blank is where I'm going to complete the square. -1 plus, and I've got to keep it the same as this side. So since I have 4 here, that means I'm going to have 4 times blank. Whatever I put here has to go in both of these blanks. So I got 4's matching, that's what I want. Now I'm going to complete the square. Now remember, completing the square, 2 over 2. This 2 is from this middle term. 2 divided by 2 squared, and that's going to work out to a 1, which means that's a 1 on both sides. Now, I've got 4 in front. This factors to give me x plus 1 squared. On this side, when I work all this out, -1 plus 1, I know 4 times 1 is 4. Add those, I get positive 3. Now I'm going to switch it over here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that 4. I want to divide both sides by 4. There's over 4 over 4, so I'm going to end up with x plus 1 squared equals a fraction 3/4. Almost done with this one. Now I want to take the square root. Square root of both sides. So that leaves me with x plus 1 equals. Now when I take the square root of this fraction, I got to do both top and bottom. It's going to be a plus or minus. The square root of 3 on top, I don't know that. That's not a nice number, so I'm going to leave that as square root of 3. But on the bottom, what's the square root of 4? 2. So I still got plus or minus. Now I've made that fraction a little bit nicer. The very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 1, positive 1, I got to get x alone. I'm going to move it over. When I subtract it, I'm just going to put that subtraction right in front of this plus minus symbol. So when I move this over, subtract 1, this -1 will actually go in front of the plus minus. So my final answer is going to be -1 plus or minus that fraction, square root of 3 over 2. Now if you did quadratic formula, your fraction might look different than that, but it does have the same value. It's going to be the same answer. So that actually works just as well as quadratic formula.